Welcome, folks. Oh boy, here we go. I'd like to welcome everybody here to the Galt Birding Festival. This is a really exciting event. The city of Galt puts on an incredible bird festival. You get to see Sac Valley with all the wintering rascals, including sandhill cranes and others. It is a wonderful bird festival. This year, they have decided to, and I think very wisely, to make this a virtual event instead of a live one, just to keep us all safe. And that is really smart. There will be, I really recommend everybody, you gotta get out to this bird festival because just spectacular wild. Like if you ever seen like been out in a field of rice stubble when the sandhill cranes start just to fall out of the sky in around you. I mean, it's spectacular. It's just that right now is not the right time for us to do this together. There will be a time, and want to encourage everybody to get out the next time the festival rolls around. But they've done a wonderful job of giving us some other virtual experiences. And I would like to introduce Chelsea Garbe from the Bird Festival to give you a little bit of information about the festival itself and what's going on and other ways you can be involved with this. Chelsea, it's really good to have you with us.
Hi, thank you, John. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the how to paint and draw ducks. Again, John gave me the introduction. My name is Chelsea. I work with the city of Galt, doing the Winter Bird Festival. It mostly just focuses on here in the Central Valley, all of the birds that that are native here, the habitats. As you guys know, if you have joined in the other classes, just the last one we did the warblers this morning with John. And then with another John, we just had the keynote speech. So if you were in that, welcome back. And I think we're just going to give it a couple more minutes and then we'll get started. But I'd like to introduce John Muir Laws again.
All right. So that's me. I'm John Muir Laws. And what we're going to be doing is today we're going to be looking at drawing some ducks. Ducks are a really great way to start drawing birds. If you were here for the warbler drawing class this morning, that's sort of jumping in the deep end of the pool because they like to hide and they like to move around. But ducks, the duck is going to be right out there in front of everybody going like, look, I'm a duck. And their patterns are even on diving ducks are made to be sort of observed by another diving duck at a great distance, so that they're like, there's cool contrasts. They're wonderful shapes and they're fun to draw. When I started drawing ducks, though, a lot of my ducks looked like gulls. And so I'm going to show you how to draw the ducks that look like ducks. And if you go bopping around in the Sacramento Valley at this time of year, you're going to be seeing lots of ducks because it is right in the flyway. And there's really an amazing allegiance between wildlife and conservation people and agriculture in the Central Valley. The rice growers in California Central Valley have become an incredible part of the bird conservation team and use all sorts of practices to enhance the wildlife quality of their rice fields, essentially making all of these surrogate wetlands when our Pacific flyway birdies come in and drop in for the winter. And so it's a wonderful alliance, and bopping down to the Galt Festival is a great place to see all those birds. Let's take a look at how to draw us some ducks. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to on one side of my screen, you're going to be able to see photographs of ducks. On the other side of the screen, I'll be sketching. I suggest that you get yourself a pad of paper and a pencil so that we can all sketch along together. And I will sort of show you how I go about thinking about constructing the bird and getting from what I see out there to on the paper. Here we go. And I'm going to share my desktop. You don't want to see that. You don't want to see my schedule. You want to see ducks. Let's do that. Play. Oops, sorry, wrong button. You want to hit play in window. There we are. There's how to draw ducks. So on the right-hand side of our screen, we have a little spot for me to sketch. On the left-hand side, we will have our sweet little ducks. All of the photographs that you're going to be seeing in this presentation came from the website birdpixel.com. And it's a wonderful resource to go to be able to draw and sketch birds. The photographer has graciously not just allowed, but encouraged all of us artists to use these extensively as resources for our artwork. And so it's a wonderful place to go for that. Here's a duck. Ooh, you're a beautiful duck. I want to draw this duck, and I want to make my duck look like a duck. One of the big duck tricks on drawing your duck is making the duck's head look like a duck's head. And that's, I've discovered for me, was not as easily done as said. So what I want to do is to unpack for you a little bit of my thinking about drawing sort of first a generic duck head, like you might see on the Ducks Unlimited logo, right? That profile view of the duck. Let's start with that and kind of break it down. What is it about that that makes that duck head look duck heady? So what I do is on a typical bird drawing, say if you're in the warbler class, then what we would have had is we would have had started with a circle and a little line coming out of it like that. And that line is very useful for orienting features on your bird head because the bird's beak lines up on that. And then just a little bit back from that, also on that same line, the bird's eye lines up on that line. So you can get these very nicely aligned bird heads by that, again, the circle with the line coming out of it there. But we for our duck, it's a slightly different situation. The idea of this is that wherever this bird looks, it is staring down its food gathering device. It's staring down what it can peck with. So it just has to stare at whatever it wants to peck, move its head forward, and you've just gotten that bug. But if you are staring into a bunch of duckweed and you want to stick your bill down in there, the idea is to kind of get your eye away from the business end of your bill so that you don't get all the duckweed in your eye. The general arrangement of the duck head is like this. I'm going to give myself a ball for its head, but I'm going to draw the line for the bill out the bottom of that circle. So well, I'm going to switch microphones because I'm going to be over here at the drawing table for a little bit here. And then hide. There we go. So here we are with our head with the duck bill coming out the bottom. And what happens is the bill is going to slope up here into the face. And then there is a great big duck cheek right in here. And the duck's eye sits back here on that big duck cheek. And then we can give ourselves a little forehead curving around. Don't draw the neck coming down from this corner of the beak. There's actually a little bit of duck throat that comes down like that before you get your neck. So there's a little bit of throat, then your neck. To make this look a little bit more, even more ducky, what we're going to do is we're going to put out here at the tip of the beak a little teardrop shape. This little, what's called the nail. A little at the end of the bill, we have a nostril that is back here in the beak. And we're also going to give our duck just the subtlest little sly duck smile. So instead of the beak coming back here, excuse me, the beak comes up, and then you lose the edge of it here. And so there's a little bit of a duck smile. And that well, essentially gives you the Ducks Unlimited logo. Ducks Unlimited, by the way, is a hunting group that works on duck conservation. And they work together to protect and preserve flyway places, breeding habitat. They really work on protecting habitat for ducks, which is the big habitat loss is the big is the elephant in the room in terms of species decline. But because this organization has worked so hard to protect wetlands, they are probably, as far as the ducks are concerned, the most effective conservation group in the country for waterfowl. And they partner with organizations like Point Blue Conservation Science, the Rice Council, and other organizations to kind of come up with how to sort of best practice, help people kind of figure out best practices for protecting ducks. So just a shout out to them. A lot of people think, oh, if you're a hunter, you kill ducks. That's bad for ducks. This hunting group protects the habitat, which gives us an incredible net gain in waterfowl across the country. Really powerful conservation group. So it's kind of a nice opportunity for people who say perhaps see hunting with one lens to think about it in a different way. I think of them as one of our critical conservation groups. But this gives me my little duck head. Quack. Now, I'm going to take this head, and if you look on the screen there, that female mallard, she's got her head turned towards us just a little bit. And so if you're able to slightly turn your duck heads, it will make your drawings look just a little bit more lively because your duck is now looking back at you just a little bit. So if we think of the ball of the head of the duck, if I were to draw a line right down the middle of the head in this drawing, it would go right around the edge of this duck. But on a 3/4 view, it is going to be coming in. That midline is going to be a little bit off the edge. And then there is essentially a hole in the side of the head, sort of like this. Well, actually, let's make it not as doopy down there. All right. This is where the duck's beak attaches, so you don't see this far side, but we're drawing this in sort of in see-through cam. It goes out to, there's going to be out here, I'm drawing a little oval down here. We're going to go down to this oval. And this back end comes back to here. And that means that the midline of this is coming down here. And that's where the nail is going to be. I'm going to give my duck a little smile. In the top, there are these little wings that pop up. And you're going to see the nostril on one side. You're going to see a little bit of the duck's head, but not its eye on the far side. And then we have, again, our big cheek in here. And the eye, when you're looking at it from the side, still sits up on top of that. And I've made it slightly more oval, so compressed in this axis than I would on the side, but not too much. Still a little bit of throat. And this helps us be able to get our duck looking back at us. So instead of just a side view, we're now just kind of coming around a little bit so that that duck can look at you. Not just if you're comfortable with that view, a lot of your ducks are not going to have, you then don't have to have all your ducks in this side view position. But what, you ask about the rest of the duck? This has been 20 minutes here and we're just in the head of the duck, but don't worry. We're going to get to all the rest of that duck business and we're going to do that right now. Let's take a look at this one. This is a duck, but this duck's beak, it looks wrong, right? It looks like somebody drew this duck all wrong. Don't you know how to draw a duck bill? Well, this is a merganser. It's a fish-eating duck, a really cool fish-eating duck. And what I want to do is to use it with this long, skinny beak with little serrations on it, tooth-like projections, not teeth. They have different ancestors than mammals, not true teeth. But it has little tooth-like projections to hold on to fish. Let's take a look at how you would take something like this and transfer it to paper. One of the most helpful things that I find to help me initially be able to draw the duck is to look at the shape of the air behind its back. Everybody take a look at this shape here. If you've worked with me before, you know I love this negative shape. And what I'm going to do is I want you to feel in the air, feel the curve of that head and then the bump of that back. So take your hand and actually physically try to feel that in the air. You're kind of coming around the top of the duck. Feel its head, then feel its back. So pat the duck, physically pat the duck in the air. And then what we're going to do is we're going to transfer that to our piece of paper. So I've got a little curve that comes around and then goes to the back. All right, maybe it comes up more. Okay, so I feel that curve. All right. I'm gonna, whoops, we're off the screen. Let's come over here. There, we feel that curve. I'm going to construct the duck around this back line. So from here, I'm putting in an oval for its head. And as I do this, I'm thinking roughly how big is this head compared to this, especially take a look at where is the bottom of this head relative to the back of the duck. How high do you want to make that head? So ducks can, with their very flexible neck, hold their head up really high. The same merganser could hold its head up there, but it's not. Right? I'm going to put in line here for its beak. I'm going to do this at a slight up tilt. And then I love looking at the angle on the duck's forehead. There's sort of a steep angle in here. That's going to help me kind of get that. So then you come in, there's actually a lot of chin. And then we're going to come down. At this point, it's helpful for me to start looking at proportions. For instance, is this neck wide enough? Is this tall enough? I want my neck to be a little bit taller. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just move my back down. So now I'm moving my back down to there. Right? So what I did is just made my neck taller. I didn't want to erase all that. I got rid of the line that was the easiest for me to remove. And I want to think of this belly as continuing down underneath the water like this. So you're going to be dropping down, and then somewhere in there, you're hitting the water line. If this duck is a faraway duck, you're going to see this water line as straight across. However, if you're closer to the duck and you're looking down on it, you're going to see this edge as a curve. So the shape that you see there depends on your distance to the duck, whether you're looking down at it with the close duck or looking out across the pond at the distant duck, where again you see the straight line. So again, my duck has a water line. My back of the head, it's got its back. I gave it a head. I gave it an upward turned bill. Little forehead in there. I'm redrawing this because I ran out of paper. The merganser is a really long-bodied duck. So now I'm looking at how long do I want to make this body? I don't have enough room to draw a full merganser body in here. I want to make this feel like a longer duck. So using the head as a measuring tool is useful. If I take the head here and I say to myself, all right, I've got one head length. All right, so that's maybe one head length in here. That's 2, that's 3, that's 4, and some change. All right, so here's one head length. There's 2, 3, 4, and some change. That's going to force me to make my merganser long enough. Let's look at where in that is the high point. So not in the middle, somewhere back here. It comes up to its highest point. There's a little bit of a shelf back here, so a tail feather sticking out there. That's about the proportions of the merganser. I have a tendency on anything that is really cool on my duck, I make it too big. I do the same thing on just about everything I draw. If I'm drawing a raptor, I have a tendency to make the beak really large and the feet really large, just because I'm sitting there thinking, oh, how cool are those feet? I just looked down and realized I did the same thing here. This bird has such an interesting bill that I made mine, and because it's this long, skinny bill, I made mine too long and too skinny. So look at my duck bill here and look at the one on the screen. If I know I have a tendency to do this, the power of that is that it helps me be able to notice when I am doing that and to catch it. I want to make my duck a little bit narrower here. I'm going to make my bill a little bit shorter. head a bit bigger. And that feels a little bit more mergansery. The dark on the head sneaks in underneath the bill. Make this line here on the neck a curve. And what I'll often do to just to fill in an area of dark, let's notice there's an eye that is somewhere in there, but it's kind of hard to see. So I can get away with just saying we have a dark head, and I can perhaps show a little bit of lighter on the top surface where the sun might hit. Here's the back of the bird's wings. These scapular feathers coming up in there. Here is black in this zone. Look at that. Notice how when I put in this black back, and here's the end of those scapular feathers, right? This ends up being too close. So look at this distance here. See this between this end of the black and this on my duck. Let's take a look at this one here on the screen. Between here and that, much longer, right? So what's up with that? What's going on? Why is that? Why is that longer? Well, let's see here. If that were to put in longer, let's see, why is that? So this one head length, two head lengths. This is about at 3 head lengths. This is about at 1, 2, 1 head length, 2, 3. Okay, 1, 2, at 3. That's what it is. I need to make my merganser longer. I mean, what a strange long-bodied critter. Think of the first lines that you make on a sketch are going to be the ones that will tend to be off the most. And if you get locked into those and try to make everything fit to those, you often run into trouble. And you get a merganser that'll end up being too short. The more marks you get on your page, the more kind of reference points things have to each other. So the proportions start to kind of crystallize more. But if you are locked into those first marks that you make, and you have to make the end of my merganser ended over here. And now I've just added in another sort of half of the head of merganser body in there. And I like it better. But what I did is I was willing to change the merganser that I had on the paper. And that helped a lot. Let's give this merganser just a little bit of a reflection to put it on the water. Just like this, it is floating in the void. And the merganser's reflection is going to occupy an area that is directly below, vertically below the thing that we're looking at. So its head reflection will be in this area. Its beak reflection will be in this area. So you want to think of for reflections coming straight down. Shadows don't work that way, but reflections are straight down. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a line that comes in, skinny out. Here's some head reflection.
This gives this little merganser a place to sit. So I put a little kind of indication of some water, just a horizontal line saying there's water going on back here, kind of tapping into the back end of the duck there, just to sort of help people sort of in the background. There's more of a flat plane of water. This just kind of gives our merganser friend a place to float. We all float down here. That's a neat duck. But let's compare the proportions on this one with this. Did you just get a big hit of cuteness? How many people looked at this and you just kind of got, you went like, aw, right? This little bufflehead here is super cute. It's a super cute duck. And what cuteness is in when we're looking at ducks, it's the fact that this duck has a small beak and a big head. We were looking at a Wilson's warbler the same way in the other class. And it made the Wilson's warbler look cute, a small beak and a big old head. And look at the size of that head. I mean, this head, this body is 1, 2, 2.5, maybe 3 heads long. As that merganser was maybe 4 or more, right? So merganser had that really long body and that big beak. And let's just take a look at the merganser again. Not cute, elegant, beautiful, interesting, but not cute. This, you seriously want to cuddle this duck. So cuteness is our sort of physiological response to looking at something with neonatal features. So neonatal features are the features that a baby has. So big old head and a little tiny nose sticking out in the middle of that head. And that's what you get with the bufflehead. So we're going to look at making a sketch of this bufflehead the same way we did with the merganser. And we want it to be cute because it is. So let's see here. How would we go about doing that? I'm going to start exactly the same way, just with what is the shape behind its head. Pet the duck, and then there's a little kind of curve for the body down. And then I'm going to put in a ball as a placeholder for that big old head. And its beak, I'm going to put a little line coming in here for a cute little beak to stick out. I want to then look at the negative shape, the shape of the air in front of this little duck. What is the shape of this block of air? I made mine too far back. I'm going to redraw that. I'm going to do it here. What's the shape of the air here? So it comes down and then over, and then it's coming more steeply towards the water here. This is what artists call a negative shape. The same way that this is a negative shape. And when you look at those shapes, your eye is better able to see the angles than if you're actually looking at the duck itself. This is weird, it's counterintuitive, but it works. It works really well. Take a look at the shape of the air and you see the shape. Now when you start looking at the bill and the feathers and things, you're so distracted by all that detail that the raw shape is harder to see. So what's going on with this one's beak? It's got a little beak. And did I make mine too large? I may have made it too large. And that's a small beak. A little bit of a smile. See the little duck smile? Little duck smile. I think we actually do want that a little bit larger. Maybe not as big a nail. Just a little hint of a nail in the front there. Now look at the forehead angle on this. You remember that forehead angle on the merganser? It was sloping back. Look at this forehead angle. From here, you're going straight up. You're going straight up, and then it's turning back, and it has a little crest, and then you're going to arch across the back. Notice where it hits that black again, it puffs out. So there's some really neat angles on the head of this. There's a big white spot occupying area in here. That's gonna swing down. That's gonna be a little bump around the back of the eye. It'll be somewhere in here. And it'll curve under the eye. And then over. Oh, notice, oh dear, look at that, look at that. So here's what I like to do, something that's neat about when I do these sort of drawings live is you get to see me make mistakes. I want you to pay attention to those and what happens when I do make those mistakes, because everybody makes mistakes. And what do you do when you hit those mistakes is what makes the difference. So what I am noticing here is that I was thinking of like I was kind of getting the shape of this white spot. And then that I wanted to connect up with this line where the white stops here and there's a little bump on the back of the head. But they didn't line up at all. Whoa. So that means that there's something wrong with my picture. What is it? Is this too low or is this too high? Well, let's take a look at it. Look at the size of that big white arch on the back of the head of that thing. That's really big. Mine was too small. So actually this thing's head has a big curve that comes down, and then its head sticks out more. I had my head not big enough. That means my back is then going to be in here. So what I want to do is make a mistake and then learn from it. I want to let that alter my drawing. This bird's wing is up in here. Let's check proportions. One head length, two head lengths. Here, what about on the screen? One head length, two head length. Oh, my duck is too short. Look at this, 1, 2 to this end of the black. I have one head length here. I need a longer duck. So I'm going to make my duck longer. Just like that, I have a longer duck. These black things are coming down here and probably don't need as much business here. So I was making my duck body too small. So using things like the head here as a unit of measurement really helps. What you're seeing here, the end of the breast feathers tucking down, some nice little rump feathers down here. It's holding its tail flat on the surface of the water. Now I'm going to refine this line a little bit. I'm going to make the top of the head here look a little bit fluffy by digging my pencil in and flicking back a few little flicks like that. It makes kind of the edge of that just a little bit rougher and fluffier. Maybe fluff that out a little bit. You're always going to make, as your drawing goes along, there'll be lots of little refinements that you're going to be able to make. And if you are flexible when you hit those and you don't get locked into, having to, I made a mark on my paper, I have to stick with it. There's no loyalty to any of your earliest lines. They're there to kind of begin a scaffolding, but as your drawing progresses, you are going to probably you're going to find that especially some of your early lines are not in the right places. And when that happens, give yourself permission to change your mind. Buffleheads are such cool little ducks. I think this one needs even more of a forehead. I'm gonna just pop that up there. Did I overdo it? Yep, I did. What a fun animal. And then you see that tail? See what its tail is doing? This duck is holding its tail flat on the water. All right, so it's this same duck could pop its tail up. So you can, here's the two kind of tail positions you'll find on a duck. Here's duck one. You can find these ducks with the tail down on the water. You'll see this happen a lot with diving ducks. They will often, while they're being active, they'll hold their tail down like that. So it makes the back of the body look really teardropped out. But the same duck can pop its tail up. And that makes the whole body look shorter and more kind of chuffy fluffy. But it's the same duck that could do that and that. Really very apparent with things like reddy ducks that have long tails, where you'll either see it sticking up or it looks like they have no tail. Before we move on from the head, wanted to take just a little bit more of a look at the bill, at a little bit more variation. We saw the merganser, we saw a mallard, we saw a bufflehead. Bufflehead being the extreme small cute end, mallard being somewhere right in the middle, merganser being the needle nose. This is a shoveler, a northern shoveler, and it filter feeds like a flamingo. You can actually see the little frill of filtering almost like baleen-like structures along this side of its bill right here. Drawing a head like this is tough because it's so weird. We need some kind of sort of reference point. So just if you are drawing a say a shoveler head, things that can really help you out are the negative shape on the forehead to beak. Look at how long the beak is relative to the head. So if my head is this long, my beak is going to be at least that long. And very often just looking at silhouettes, I'm going to have a bump and then a bump. That's going to help me be able to get that ridiculously large bill. Still a little bit of duck throat, a little bit of duck tummy, some forehead. And where's the eye? The eye is back here sitting on top of a big cheek. The eye is back there away from the business end of that bill. Watch this on the back of the head here. I'm going to make my duck head. We're going to flatten it out. Turn around here, come around like that. I'm going to see this line that looks kind of sloppy. I'm going to make this look feathery by just a few little flick lines. So look at this. Dig my pencil in, flick back here, dig pencil in, flick, flick. A few little flick lines like I did up here on the head of the buffalo head, a few of those little things. And then this edge looks just a little bit like it's got a little bit of scruff. It looks better if you put your line on, started on the outside edge and flick in rather than flicking out. When you flick out like that, it looks like they're little separate hairs. When you put it on the edge, press and flick in, it feels like there is a crack in the feathers like that. And you're seeing a crack in the feathers. That's the effect that you want to get. Oh, so cool. So what I'd like to look at now is just a little bit of variation in duck position. This duck has its head down. Where did its neck go? Where did its neck go? The neck is still there, but the neck is folded up like a giant S. Look at my cursor kind of curving in here. The neck is coming around here, popping around here. And that kind of gives you this big bump here in the front. So when the head is down, you'll get often a very nice, neat, sharp point back here behind the head. And this negative shape here underneath the head changes dramatically. So head down, kind of a neat, broad arrow here. And there's going to be kind of a tight space here. When the head is up, you can see much more of the full S shape of the neck. But look over here, these ducks, it's the same neck. But do you see what's going on? This neck is coming along here, hitting over here, then coming like, oops, hey, come back. All right. So back of the S, front of the S. Here is the back of the S. So you see that line coming down there? This is the back of the neck coming around here. Here's the front of the S. That's this part in here. So when the head is down, it's the same head, same neck, but notice how chunky and round the front of this duck is. See this big bump in the front? This one, the neck kind of comes down and just attaches into the body. But this, here you get this really big bump here. So let's take a look at this with the duck in the water. Because here we go. Actually, let's go for a whole new world. If my duck has its head up, right? I'm going to feel this come down here. And we're going to kind of get into the the back of my duck or my goose. In the front, there's going to be a little bit of throat. And then we come down. And you're going to hit the water. So feel that S curve. Feel that S curve. Let's put the head down a little bit. All right, so this one is not as up. This also being a different species, this one has a shorter neck. But you know, its head is fairly up. The same number of neck vertebrae, I think, but just so here we're going to have our duck head. And let's feel that off the back of the neck. We come down, we're going in, and then you've got your back of the duck that is coming up. There's that negative shape. Oh. What's happening in the front? We have a little bit of throat, and then we have our neck that comes down, and you're going to bounce that into the water. Let's lower the head of the duck even more. All right, so now this one is kind of, its neck is down, it's a little bit more tucked in. Okay, let's play with that. So give yourself your duck. Head's going to start here, with a very steep forehead. And we're going to feel that curve come off the back of the neck. And up from there. So nice little V negative shape in here. What about in the front? A little bit of throat, a little bit of neck, and then we're going to curve out to the water. So this should be parallel with that. I'm actually going to have to raise my back up. I just did a trick, a drawing trick called making a through line. What I did is I noticed, where does the neck here in the front, how does that line relate to the point of the V in the back? And at first I had this up here and then this down here. Those didn't match, so that helped me move my back up. Again, I made a mistake, but here's the important thing. I caught my mistake and I moved in a different direction before the drawing got too far along. That helps a lot. And finally, if my duck is really beating cheeks across the lake, its little duck motor is going flap, 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 flap. It's just paddle, 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 paddle here in the back. And what that does is it tips the boat forward as it goes, as it's going down. So instead of being like a jet boat where the tip of it pops out of the water, imagine that the little propeller at the back of the duck, it's zipping along, and what that is doing is sort of pushing the nose of the boat down. So when a duck is going faster across the water, you're going to see in the front of the duck less chest. So let's mess around with that posture. We have a little duck head. Right? Give our duck a forehead. And let's see what we have here. We've got, there's that negative space. It's a curve that comes around, hits the back. We're then going to come up and back what's happening in the front? There's a little curve that comes down, and and then we're at the water line. So the water is sloshing up here around the front end of the duck. So this negative shape here under the duck throat, that is, it becomes, here we had it big, medium, smaller, smallest. And that's because this whole duck is tipped up. The back part is high, because the motor is just jamming along back here, and it's sort of submarining the front end of the duck. So that force there is pushing the duck down. As it is going along. So those are a few strategies that you can use to get your duck on. And what I want to encourage you to do is ducks, they're such great subjects for like, if you're trying to learn to draw with warblers, you're asking yourself to do something that's really challenging because they are super uncooperative. But ducks perform for us, and they take naps in front of us. And they often hang out in a group. So if you're drawing one duck and the duck that you're drawing moves to a different position, you look at the duck that's right next to it. And that one's doing it. So also you can start with napping ducks and still ducks, chilling ducks. So if you find a duck and it's by the side of the pond and it's just chilling and hanging out, that's your duck to start with. And you can use these strategies to get those shapes and things down. Then you can map in areas of light and dark, put those in. Don't get lost in, like, some of the ducks, the really up close ducks, when you get up close to them, they're all these just tiny little, these feathers with like little line, like little worms crawling across them. They've got a name for those kind of feathers. It's called vermiculation. Vermiculite is dirt that's made from worms. Meaning the worms, so they're worm-like patterns. Don't get lost in vermiculation. Don't get lost in the weeds of like the super details of the little feathers. Think about, how does this duck appear from the distance that you're actually really seeing it? From back here, you're really not seeing all that little vermiculated stuff. And that's just an area of gray. And work on shape, work on proportion. What you're going to find then is that you go out in the evening and there's a backlit duck on the bay out there and it's bobbing along, and you look out at that duck and you go like, wow, that looks like a gadwall to me. And then it comes around to better light and you go like, wow, that was a gadwall. And I got that from its silhouette. That's crazy. Yeah, you got that from its silhouette because you're now looking at the sorts of things that artists look at are the same sort of things that the really pro-end birders are using as identification characteristics. You're looking at proportions and shape and posture. And so this very early in our birding development gets us looking at the sorts of features that people find really helpful, that help us tell one species from another. So it's not just those field marks. It's not just that the bufflehead has the female has a little white patch right down here. No, if you were to spray paint a female bufflehead lime green, you could still identify it as a female bufflehead because it's got the little beak. It's got, it's got the proportions, big old head of a bufflehead. And sometimes when we're just focused on field marks, like where it's dark, where it's light, where it's brown, where it's green, we miss those sorts of things. And
the difference in the silhouette of a lesser scaup, it's different than the shape of a greater scaup, even if the rest of the duck was all colored in. David Sibley's got some great references and things where he just geeks out on that. It's like look at all the things, here's what goes on with the silhouette, the shape of the lesser scaup, here's what the greater scaup does. That's fun, it's cool. Give this a try, and I think you're going to find that it enhances your birding. It makes you able to observe things that you otherwise wouldn't be able to see. There's so much more that you're going to notice when you're out romping at a pond. If you want to learn more, I want to encourage you to check out johnmuirlaws.com. That's my website. And every week I teach 3 or more workshops on different aspects of drawing or teaching about nature journaling. And so if this approach and some of these strategies, you're like, oh, that was useful. That's what we do. So you can get more of that there. And I've also got recordings of a bunch of past classes. If you want to see a recording of this class again, that will also be posted there. Also check out birdpixel.com. You're part of your homework. I'm going to suggest that you go to birdpixel.com and just start checking out ducks. Check out a bunch of ducks and make a quick sketch of this one, quick sketch of this one. Kind of getting those proportions and those beak shapes and things, the way we're looking at in this workshop. A little bit of reinforcement with that. If you spend 30 minutes after this class just reinforcing those ideas, all these strategies, they're going to stick in your head like glue. If, though, however, you go and do something else at the end of this workshop, a lot of the details that you think you're going to remember, your brain will forget. So a little bit of reinforcement within this first hour is going to make a huge difference. You review that one more time before you go to bed, and these strategies are yours. So give it a try, and hope to sketch with you in the field someday around Galt. Let's go to our Galt team and any closing messages for us.
Yes, again, thank you for that, John. That was great. I will not be looking at ducks the same. I will be doing some investigating now.
That's great. I'm really happy to hear that.
Yeah, that's really great. My daughter's gonna have a great time. Again, I just wanted to say thank you. This was great. Both of the art classes today were really, really great. And I just wanted to encourage everybody, this is the last class of the day, but I wanted to encourage everybody to take a look at the Study of Galt Winter Bird Festival page. There's a lot of great resources. We have a lot of links to prior classes, prior tours, things such as behind the scenes tours at Cuteness River Preserve. We have a lot of those on there, and just some great resources that I think everybody would like. So again, I just wanted to take a moment to thank everybody, including, especially you, John, for participating in our 2022 virtual Winter Bird Festival. And we hope, fingers crossed, next year everything is, great and everybody's healthy, and we can have an in-person festival and kind of get a handle on this so we can do that.
Well, yeah, Chelsea, I'm looking forward to perhaps birding with you at Consumnes and other spots around Galt in next year. Let's as a community do what we can to kick back COVID. We have to think really broadly about taking care of not just ourselves, but our communities. And,
absolutely. John, I did have one more comment. If there is any more just widespread online resources that you are aware of that we could also put out there. I see we have a lot of new birders in here that are eager for some resources.
Yeah. So are you asking me for other resources and suggestions?
Yes, just in general, I had a chat message that was asking for just, in general, the best resources. I know you had in the chat, I believe it was Yavea that put some links in the chat. Thank you for that. Um,
Thank you, Eve. Good to see you.
yes, just some general, your favorites, I guess. Just
Oh, so
top favorites.
so I mentioned Bird Pixel and also seeingbirds.com, wonderful sources of bird photographs. Cornell has a bunch of wonderful resources for birding, and there's sort of an endless trove both for educators and people who are trying to learn their birds. There are also sort of a number of, if you want to kind of get exposed to sort of different thoughts and sort of thinking about birds, there's a number of different online bird festivals where you can get the workshop contents after the fact. And see, for instance, the Love of Birds Festival is an absolutely delightful set of resources and things. On my website, I've got lots of tools to help people draw birds. David Sibley's curated a really fun website. If you haven't been, you know David Sibley's field guide, but he also does these wonderful kind of deep dives into thinking about all sorts of different aspects of bird identification or ecology, natural history, and writes some really useful blog posts illustrated by David Sibley himself. Those are really, really fun. That guy's got crazy game. And it's fun also to look at the sorts of things that he geeks out on. You know, like there's where he'll be sitting there kind of, you know, watching juncos. And a lot of us are kind of like, yeah, I've seen juncos before. But he'll stare at the juncos until he notices something about them that he's never seen before. And I mean, this is David Sibley noticing something that he hasn't noticed before. And so what the message there is that in all these things that we just take for granted, there are levels and levels of intricacy and beauty and wonder that are right in front of us, waiting to be unpacked and discovered if we pay attention. If we can slow down and learn how to pay attention to those little things, the world will offer up its gifts and its secrets. And that is, I think, one of the wonderful lessons about birding is that it is a bottomless pit. It's not like, oh no, I'll never learn it all. Oh, that's right, because it all is, there's first of all, there's the part of it that's unknowable, right? Then there's the part that we just don't know yet. There's the part that we do know and we've figured out, but maybe you don't follow ornithological literature. So David Sibley unpacks a lot of that stuff for us. Those are some of my favorite resources. And I guess one last thought. Also, just sort of consider for yourself the impact of what if you, as part of your birding practice, try this. You want to make your birding experience even richer. Is when you go birding, bring a trash bag, and on your way back from your birding walk, make the path that you went out on a more beautiful place. And what you're going to find is that you develop by doing that work for the place, you develop a deeper connection with the place. This is kind of a weird kind of trick of human psychology that I think was first described by Benjamin Franklin. And here's the quick story. This is, by the way, I'm going off on anecdotes. You got me started. So here's what happened with Ben Franklin. There was a friend or not a friend of, there's an enemy of Ben Franklin. There's a person who was this opponent of Benjamin Franklin. And in the stuff that he wanted to do was constantly opposing him. And what Benjamin Franklin did is Benjamin Franklin went to him, and he knew that this person loved books and had an extensive library. And there's some books that he had that were extremely valuable and rare. See, in those days, you couldn't just go to Barnes and Noble. Like, so books, like if you had the book, right, like getting that book was hard. There was no colonial Amazon, right? And so what he did is he went to this guy and he said, could I please borrow that book of yours, this really, really valuable book? And so it'd be an incredible favor to Ben Franklin to have this guy borrow the book. But it put him in kind of this awkward situation. So he said, okay, and loaned it to him. And then Benjamin Franklin read the book and gave him the book back with a nice note and thanked him for it. And from that point on, this person was an ally of Benjamin Franklin's. Why is that? It's because Benjamin Franklin got him to do something for Benjamin Franklin. You think it's going to go the other way, that if I do something for this person who doesn't like me, they're going to like me more. No, but what Benjamin Franklin did is he got the other guy to do something nice for him, because in our heads, we do things for people that we like. And the person's like, I loaned him my book, I guess I must like him, right? So, but what if you do this what if you act in service of the park, of the place? If I do acts of kindness and service in the place that I go, my brain will then say, well, I'm cleaning this place up. Why is that? Well, it must be because I have a deep connection with this place and really, really like it. And what you'll find is that when you come back and you filled up your little bag with trash, you now have a deeper connection with this place because of that act of stewardship. It changed the way you think about the place, and you now love it even more. So give it a try and see if you fall more deeply in love with the book. Are there any other comments, thoughts, or ideas? Now there's a wonderful community of bird people out there. So if people are just kind of new to this whole birding thing, I really wish we could be together in person, because you just sort of find that this is just sort of a lovely, lovely community to be around. But a lot of people are really intentionally reaching out online through things. Again, I'll just use as an example the Love of Birds Festival, and it's a wonderful way to meet people in your area, and we can actually do some socially distanced bird watching. So it is a safe activity as long as you're not really gathering together in little pods. So I also want to thank the Galt Festival for canceling this wonderful festival that you folks put together. And it's hard to cancel something that you put that much work into, but I think you really made the right call. That's keeping us safe. It would have brought people into an area during the Omicron surge. But folks, this Omicron surge will pass. It will pass. As sort of scientists are sort of follow the behavior of these surges in each little region, you get what's called an ice pick surge. So Omicron isn't here. It is, right? And then it's gone. So it burns through really hot and heavy. You just don't want to get it during that time. And so that's why we're avoiding things like these big gatherings during this time, but it will pass, and you just don't want to get Omicron during the surge. That's the number of hospitals are really just maxed out, and let's take care of each other. Let's take care of ourselves, and let's go take care of those birds.
Agreed. Agreed. So again, just going back, thank you so much, John. This was great. Again, I encourage everybody to check out, not only John Muir Laws website, which again, a ton of pre-recorded videos. Like he said, he does about 3 a week that are free to the community. Anybody can access them. And again, if you can't make those specific ones, there are pre-recorded. Again, thank you so much. As well as our Winter Bird Festival for the City of Galt's website does have some resources as well. So
great. Hey, take care, everybody. Thank you all for being here, and let's go celebrate it is amazing that we are alive and sentient on this planet. Let's make the most of that, and go out and celebrate this incredible world. Let's work together to take care of it. Let's work together to take care of each other. Thank you all for being here.
thank you. Thank you for joining us for the 2022 Winter Bird Festival. We hope to see you guys next year.
Look forward to it. Take care, everyone.